This is an ultimate global podcast. Hello, and welcome to our Daily Dose podcast, covering all about day-to-day global affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kora and George Mavros from Sydney.
Hello and good evening to everyone who is joining us again for today's Monday Daily Dose on UNSDGs or social affairs or inspirational global leaders. And we have not been touching about that third segment on inspirational global leaders. And what a right time for us to talk about one of the inspirational global leaders who has in fact already ended her political tenure in Germany as a chancellor for serving for the last 16 years. A sympathetic figure, a pragmatic individual, a problem solver, an efficient manager of tough situations. And you can just go on and on and on to talk about Angela Merkel. The legacy that she has left behind is definitely difficult for her successor to take forward from here. Elected as the first female chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany on the 22nd November 2005, many were not aware that she's going to probably create history in the next 16 years by serving as the first ever female chancellor and taking those big decisions in the coming few years. And definitely, when she's walking out of the office, she is one of the most popular politicians that Germany has ever had. So, passing on to our guest tonight again, George, for those initial remarks on Angela Merkel's legacy.
Good evening to you, Saurabh. It's good to be here again. And I have to say, Saurabh, I don't care about anybody else's thoughts. I love our intro music. It always gets me jumping. So well done. So Angela Merkel. Well, it was interesting. We first made a couple of comments about Angela a few weeks ago about her being an inspirational leader, and we copped a bit of flack from some people on the LinkedIn post that I'd shared with you. So I've spoken to a few different people, and she certainly does have her detractors, but it seems as though she's got a lot more people that think positive of her than think negatively of her. Not the most forward-thinking, courageous, jump out there and do it, visionary sort of person. But sometimes you just need somebody to settle things down and to get through. And if you have a look at her 16 years, by geez, there's been a few issues and a few what I call the left field problems that have come up, and she's handled them fairly well. The thing that I like about her is she's one of the very few leaders that I'm aware of who actually is just the same sort of person she was when she first came in. She's not suddenly grown this enormous wealth that some leaders seem to mysteriously acquire in their term. She's not. She was interviewed not so long back. She still does her own housework, and she doesn't have chauffeurs and all of the sort of carry on that a lot of leaders do. Probably does for official work and that. But her and her husband don't have a maid. They don't have this. They don't have that. And she was questioned once about the fact that she was wearing the same outfit that she had worn previously by a journalist. And I can't remember the exact retort. I did go looking for it. But it was something along the lines of, I am here as a public servant, not a runway model. And it was just, to me, that was the beauty of that woman. And I also like the fact that she stood up to Putin, and she didn't take any of the nonsense from Trump in recent years. So for me, I think there's many reasons to see her as a inspirational leader. And by geez, there's got to be a few women around the world that have taken great heart that a woman could lead in all countries, Germany, for so long. And that's got to give encouragement to women, but especially the younger women and the young girls growing up. I think a great role model.
Yep. And I think, female leaders such as herself or Jacinda Ardern or Kamala Harris, they are providing an inspiration to the next generation of females who want to probably be in the leadership roles, but they don't have enough confidence, or they feel that they don't deserve to be there because of their gender, right? So I think they are acting as a role model for the future generations of their own countries as well.
Yeah, whether it's a matter of they don't feel like they're worthy of it, I think for a lot of young ladies, and I've noticed this when I do my mentoring with uni students coming from various cultural backgrounds. For lot of young women, and certainly the younger students, they're still somewhat intimidated that the fact that they've been allowed to go to university, they have to take that as a great honour and privilege, as opposed to it should be accepted as a right. And and so I think women like her and Jacinda and various others. Um, the thing I like about that is it's sending a message to women: you can do this. You can break through that ceiling. Because, see, there's two parts of the glass ceiling, whether it be in business, politics, or whatever. One, we have to get the Neanderthalic thinking men out of it. We have to get men to understand that, and not all people in positions of power are Neanderthals, but that we've still got a fair few of them around. So we've got to get the men to understand, to open it up, and it not be the boys' club. And we've got to have women prepared to walk through if that door is open or if that ceiling is removed, because it's got to work together. And so I think people like her give a lot of encouragement to young potential female leaders of the future.
Yeah. And a lot of people have also referred to Angela Merkel's story and legacy as less tangible, but more transformative, in the sense that she has been able to change Germany into a society which is more modern and which is less defined by its history. Because whenever you talk about Germany, or whenever you used to talk about Germany, maybe you used to think about the past that was left after the World War II, or what Nazi did. But now, people consider Germany as a normal country. And I was reading an article yesterday which said that she made Germany a normal country. And what does that mean is, because what Germany had aspired after the post-war generations, she actually did that. She actually made Germany what Germans wanted Germany to be.
And the make no bones about it, she was a very powerful force in keeping the EU together. I mean, Germany's efforts and Germany's work with Greece over the potential of them defaulting, not once or twice. She had a very big role to play in that, and she had a very stabilising role in the EU of trying to bring everybody. Again, I think she epitomises somebody that actually said, well, listen, this is what you said you want. Now, let's deliver what we said we want to deliver. So she did that within her own country to a large degree, and she certainly did it within the EU.
Yep, absolutely. And, that's what we were talking about before as well. Women like her have been showing us that how even the women leaders, the female leaders, have the ability to lead through different crisis model. In fact, she was also termed as the crisis manager once, because
Correct.
she has been able to lead through three of the biggest crises Germany has gone through. One of them was the 2008 financial crisis. Another one was the 2015 migrant crisis, and also the ongoing rule of law and democracy crisis, and also undergoing Germany through a pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. So she has been taking Germany through these harsh times quite successfully by taking those solid decisions, but still keeping her empathetic nature and, taking everyone together into the decisions.
Yeah, it was interesting. I looked up a poll that was done, and it says here, 16 years after she first became Germany's Chancellor, Angela Merkel's approval ratings in 5 major European countries and the United States remain higher than those of any other current world leader. That's not a bad effort. That's not a bad effort, because when you consider in those 16 years, she's had more than her fair share of crises to manage through. And what we've seen with this COVID pandemic is just looking at it from Australia and looking at it in New South Wales. You know, being in charge at this time, it's so easy to be on the wrong side of the opinion poll. It doesn't mean you're necessarily wrong. It's just a hard gig to do. So she's come through and she's got a higher approval rating than any other world leader. I think that speaks to itself.
And also, George, talking about this key fact that she has in fact gone against the traditional norms of Germany, when Germany only used to take decisions considering what is best for them. If you look at the COVID-19 situation, both herself and President Emmanuel Macron have collaborated for that EU's COVID recovery fund, and they have taken decisions against the current way of their own countries, and in fact looked forward for better integration so that there is better efficiency for the entire European continent at this time.
Yeah. So interesting. When this survey was done in the UK, her rating was 15% positive. Macron's was minus 35. In Italy, she was 23. Macron was negative 18. And even in France, she was 49 to Macron's negative 29. So she didn't do a bad job there. But she is a scientist from her background, and she's not the most exciting, flamboyant sort of a person. But politics shouldn't be about that. Politics should be about the person that can make the decision, the person that can look at what needs to be done and then get on and get people to do it. Sometimes it just takes somebody with a nice, steady hand to get things sorted. And she always came across to me in that way. Now, again, I acknowledge that numbers of people have commented that she was terrible and all of that. But generally speaking, no matter who you are, once you're in politics, there's a good chunk that don't like you anyway. So, haters gonna hate. Whoever wins the next election in Australia, whether it's Morrison or whether it's somebody from the Labor Party, almost half the country won't be happy with the result. So you're already, So she's when you look at the actual breakdown of the votes in Germany, she had opportunity for a whole lot of people to not be supportive of her because of the way they run their politics. Interesting to see that her party actually lost the election that was run yesterday. So I wonder what the Merkel fact would have been in there. What would have happened if she'd gone again? So I also read a story where supposedly after Trump got up, there's a story about Barack Obama going and visiting her and telling her to run again. Apparently, supposedly, she was going to stand down before this term. Barack basically said to her, "We need you to stay in place." And I think if that's true, he did a good job for the world, because I think she was a good influence on the EU and the world in general at a time when we had somebody like Trump in.
Yep, I was in fact going to talk about that only, that how once upon a time Barack Obama was quite impressed with her and the kind of decision she was taking, because During that time, and even during now, none of the political leaders would want to take decisions which damage their political status or political position in their country. But when she invited all those refugees, it was quite obvious that it's going to be a political blowback for her. But still, she took that decision against anything. And that showed her, big heart towards taking decisions, irrespective of whether it is gaining her any votes or not, or whether it is bringing her back to power or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's credited with opening up the borders. In actual fact, she didn't open them up. She just didn't shut them down. But same effect, she allowed people in where many other countries weren't. And she was also, if memory serves me correct, she was also the one that got through same-sex marriage, legalising that in Germany, which you would think was a fairly that was a big move to make in Germany. So I think there's plenty around. There's plenty of things that are there as a positive legacy of hers. And it's interesting, when I was doing a little bit of research on her, a lot of the negative comments about her seems to be about her actual style, not necessarily what she did or didn't do, but the way she went about doing it. So again, what are we looking for? Are we looking for leaders that lead, or are we looking for the show pony? Are we looking for the most beautiful, the most exotic, the most outspoken, the most this, the most that? I think for me, I just want somebody that can make a decision. I've never looked at a prime minister in Australia and said, "Oh, that's an excellent prime minister because they look good," or "That's not an excellent prime minister because they don't look good." And I think part of that has to do with politics run by the media. The media likes to make fun of people's looks or idiosyncrasies and that. But let's not blame the media for everything. The media only gets away with what the public allows them to. If there was enough backlash from the public, the media would soon back off.
But as you just said, that there are so many good points of Angela Merkel, but some people have also been criticizing her for several decisions. If you look at the decision that she was able to rescue the Eurozone, but she was also blamed or to provoke the deep divide in the north and south regions of the European Union. And that was a divide that reappeared in the migrant crisis, and also at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, when we saw that they were being abandoned by a lot of emergency funds that was supposed to go to the southern part of Europe. And Angela Merkel was supposedly playing a major role in that, as per the experts.
Yeah. You and I have discussed this many times, and people that listen to this podcast probably start to get sick of me saying it. And if that's the case, they're going to get even sicker by the time we've done this for 3, 4, 5, 6 or 12 months. There's many a decision that a leader has to make that we, the public, even the journalists who are not privy to all the responsibility, who are not privy to all the bits and pieces of information, we can just make a decision that's left or right, yes or no, right? Because we're not cluttered with all the other things that come into play. For anybody who's a leader, for anybody that has to make a decision on the spot with the spotlights on them, there could be all sorts of reasons as to why they didn't quite do it the way we saw it. For me, I think you look back and you say, is a place a better place or a worse place than when that person came in? And for me, for 16 years reign, if you have a look where it was to where Germany is now, the attitude towards Germany back then, to the attitude towards Germany now, the overall acceptance of her from not just within her own country, but as a world leader. I think it falls on the side of well and truly plus. And again, my motivation or my area of critiquing leaders is yes, you did your job, but did you also motivate? Did you also bring people together, or did you push them apart? And I think overall she's brought more together than she has pushed apart.
Yep, that's true, George. And one of the best phrases like I heard about her was related to this fact that she was not a person who was focusing on winning the arguments, as most of the politicians do. We try to just win over the arguments of our opposition leaders, and that's how we get more votes. She rather focused on solving the problems. Most of
Yes.
the politicians around the world are not focusing on solving the problems. They are still trying to play around with the problems and just win the arguments and trying to show that we are having a cleaner shirt than the person whom you were thinking to vote last time. Our shirt is cleaner than that. We have a better surf excel than that party, isn't it?
Yes. We probably must have been looking at some of the similar stuff when we were doing our research, because one of the articles that I pulled up said one of the greatest successes of Angela Merkel as a politician is she tried to depoliticize politics, and she was, and they harkened back to the fact that she was a scientist and likes to get the right answer. And in science, we often don't care who comes up with it, so long as somebody comes up with the answer. And the article that I was reading was saying that just that very thing, that she seemed to want to try and minimise the impact of the political perspective and maximise the impact of the pragmatic and the right answer perspective. And she certainly seemed to come across that way to me. She's also somebody that didn't seem to get flustered and seemed to be able to handle pressure and shock occurrences very graciously. If you have a look at her meeting with Trump where he refuses to shake her hand, she didn't really look that fazed by it. There's a couple of times there's video of her with Trump in a couple of situations where he carries on like a spoiled brat, and she just doesn't let that rattle her. She just carries on. I think another mark of a good leader, to be able to be in a situation like that and suddenly not be distracted, not go to water. She just, okay, that's fair enough. And I think if you have a look at the particular one I'm talking about, there's a point where she sort of just shrugs as much as, oh well, that's it. Yeah, I think she's carried herself very well, and I think she quite possibly was the leader that Germany needed for the period of time that she was there. So I think I think sometimes in our lives, people turn up at the right time in our personal and business lives, and I think for Germany, I think she probably turned up at the right time for them.
And also considering the fact, all her positive traits, it now feels that it is quite difficult for, Germans to feel that who will be the right person to fit her shoes, and who can be the right successor in this case, who can be as talented or as powerful or in the way he or she takes the decisions and takes Germany in the right direction and try to make it more normal instead of taking it back again from where she started.
Yeah, I think one of the problems for anybody following on from somebody that's done a job exceptionally well, we talk about them having left behind big shoes for you to fill. and in some cases you can just carry on and do the same sort of thing and just improve on that, and in other cases you need to change courses. I think one of the sad things about the way politics runs is that I'm still not seeing enough in politics where either party will concede that the other is right. I've forgotten the chap's name, but from the New South Wales Labor Party at the moment, and he talked about, he took over from Jody Mackay, and he's talked about, if the Liberals' idea is right, then I'll support it. He said, I'm past this adversarial for the sheer sake of adversarial. Within Germany, what do you do when you follow somebody like her? You certainly can be more flamboyant. People will notice that. But does that make you a better leader? Do you continue on the same sort of pathways, or do you? You can't just tear things down and restart. We've seen the folly of that in Western politics. This country, the US, the UK, they've all had a touch of those where people want to just pull it apart and put it back together again, just to be able to say, well, we're different, so we must have something different. So yes, it'll be interesting to see who it is, and it'll be interesting to see how they go in their early stages, and then how long they last for.
One last thing that I want to touch base upon, which I'm sure a lot of people did not notice upon, is the trade that Germany has had in the recent past. If you look at Germany's biggest trading partners, the top three include: number one, China, with 212.8 billion euros of trade with Germany. Number two, Netherlands, with 172.1 billion euros. And number three is United States, 171 billion euros. So Germany is definitely one of those rare countries whose top three partners include both China and US. Because either it's the trading partner that you are tied up with, it's either US or China in the top three. I have not seen both in the top three as your top trading partners. And that shows how diplomatically she has handled both the sides and still be able to lead Germany in a way which benefits her own country, as well as takes everyone together, takes all the countries together. That also shows her diplomatic strength, isn't it, George?
Well, not only that, and not only has she done pretty well in that trade area in that sense, but if you delve into the German investment into Greece, so yes, they bailed Greece out, but they also acquired a fair chunk of infrastructure and construction investment in the way that they went about doing it. And I'm not saying that's wrong. What I'm saying is, Germany. There was. I remember back in the bailout 1 or bailout 2. I can't remember. Anyway, one of them, they were being heavily criticised, or she was, for the amount of money that they were putting through, and they were helping Greece out with. And I happened to go to Greece a few years ago on a holiday and was talking to numbers of people over there. And they pointed out that, yes, Germany did help them out, but it wasn't a gift. It wasn't a freebie. A lot of their motorways and their motorways, I was going to call it an autobahn then, they're now controlled and run by German companies. They were built by German companies. So it wasn't just a matter of give the money and walk away. She got her pound of flesh for the dollars or the euros that she put in. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's she's managed to keep the EU together. She's managed to resolve an issue with the Greece collapsed. And that was one of her big things, because had Greece fallen, and you take the other pig economies as they're known, if they had not been able to support them, the EU was going to be in all sorts of bother. They already had this issue coming up with the UK. They knew that was coming. So to manage through that and to encourage and use a diplomacy with everybody to keep that all together, I think she's an unsung hero of the EU, personally. I really do. I think she's an unsung hero.
Absolutely. And I think 2 years back, when I had visited Finland for a student exchange program, we had a professor from Germany where he talked about how Germany is focusing towards becoming the world number one in new technologies such as artificial intelligence and blockchain. And I was really impressed with the vision Germany is setting, that they want to be number one in new technologies. They don't want to be number one in other things, a lot of other things which most of the other countries will not look at. They'll not look at to be number one in technologies. They might want to divide their people and get the votes. But here comes Germany, which was focusing not on dividing people, not on making those political decisions which the usual politicians take, but actually working towards new technologies and showing the world the path to follow. And hopefully, the successors of Angela Merkel are also going to do the same, and we'll come to know about that in the near future. And before we end, do you have anything to say, George?
Oh, just on Germany and its innovations and things like that. Our listeners, if you don't know much about it, should go back and study some of the innovations and some of the creativity that had come out of Germany, and some of the technological advances that they had made, especially during the war, both on the sea and in the air. They had made some number of breakthroughs in technology that the Western world was very interested to find out a lot more about. So yeah, they've always been a nation that engineering wise and technical skill. I've always saw them as one of the nations up there, but they've made a real commitment to re-establish, or if you like, or position themselves as that. And moving into blockchain and all of that, I would argue to a degree that the German brain tends to work very much in a very defined. They're very specific. They're almost engineer scientific in their approach. They don't go to the left. They don't go to the right. That's the boundaries. So the blockchain fits quite well with their approach, in my opinion.
Yeah, and every culture has got a different sort of cultural dimensions, as we famously look at the Hofstede's cultural dimensions. And we all know about Germany, where it is placed. People from Germany are generally pretty much structured. You cannot go beyond that structure. If you try to go beyond that structure, probably they might not like it. It's because of the way they have been brought up. And well, that's totally respected.
A very good friend of mine has been in business for many, many years. He's a bit older than me, but he told me very early when we met, and he said, with the Germans, you can't get them to move an inch to the left or an inch to the right unless you got facts and you got figures. But he said, I always loved dealing with them, because whenever you did a deal, whenever you had something in place, you knew they weren't going to move an inch to the left or an inch to the right. He said you knew exactly where they're going. And my experience with business people from German background that I've dealt with, I would agree with him on that. You might not get them to move much, but also that is a strength. You know exactly where you stand.
Yeah, I think that has been the most fascinating element of how leaders like her has been inspiring us, and also countries like Germany have been inspiring us to move in the right direction, though their cultural limitations also tell a different story. But we will be talking about more such leaders in the coming few episodes. And definitely, if you have got any suggestions for us or any specific leader that you think is inspirational, or his journey or her journey has been inspirational for you, please let us know, and we will definitely make sure that we make sure to talk about that person in our upcoming episodes. And also, before we end this podcast, if you want to follow us on Apple iTunes or Spotify, don't forget to do that. We are already there. Just type in Ultimate Global Podcast and you'll be able to find us. Please follow us. And you can also, in fact, become a patron for the Ultimate Global Podcast. I'll be sharing the link in the comment section. So if you want to support us financially so that we can grow further, feel free to support us in any possible way. That will be great for us. Looking forward to making more episodes for you in the coming days along with George. Thank you so much.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye to you, Sarab, and see you next time.